College. He was also one of the officials in charge of business development here in New York City. And attorney Kenneth Vecchio is a Republican strategist. Ken, I want to start with you because there are reports that the city is going to provide something like $2 billion worth of incentives for Amazon to come to Queens. Is that money well spent?
Yeah, it is. Look, I'm not a fan of Amazon's politics, but I am a fan of capitalism, and they have a right to lay out their company wherever they want to go. And if industry wants to sell to them, meaning other property owners want to sell to them so they can come in there, and if they work with the government in order to set up their businesses there, I not only think it's not a problem, I think it's something that so greatly benefits the community because it's going to bring billions of dollars into the local economy. It's going to bring so many jobs. It's so beneficial in so many different manners.
But Dr. Ford, I mean, $2 billion that could be spent on improving infrastructure, on the subway system, and all the sort of things that New Yorkers want to see improved.
I find myself in the bizarre position of actually agreeing with Ken, and so at least in part, but I'm sure I'll get over it. But quite seriously, you know, when I was involved directly in economic development, working for former Mayor David Dinkins in this regard, you have to play the long game in these kinds of situations. $2 billion sounds like a lot of money, and it is. But Amazon is putting in what would you said about $5 billion, but there's 25,000 jobs involved. And I was
in each
here,
location.
Yeah, and when I was in New York, I was here in New York City when General Electric headquarters left. I was here when IBM headquarters left, American Airlines. The list kind of goes on and on when big companies were being drained out of the city along with their jobs. What I find interesting is that the people who are fighting this the most, they have jobs by and large. Okay, we're talking about people who will be able to get jobs and stay employed here in the city of New York, and I just think it's a mistake to even talk about this should not happen. You can argue about infrastructure, for example, but infrastructure needs to be improved in the city of New York.
You want to play the devil's advocate?
I feel like I'm facing a one-on-three, so I'll start with you, Tal. What about the people who are poor, the people who will see their rent go up, the people who don't have a chance of getting these jobs? I mean, this will hurt them.
I understand the uproar that Amazon is opening in two of the richest parts of the country, but at the same time, why are we expecting Amazon to not act like a company and act like an NGO?
Because we're acting like they deserve corporate welfare, Ken.
Look, I have one point of agreement with you, and I actually just thought about it while I was sitting here, is that I do have a big problem with $2 billion going to Amazon and not going to mom and pop companies, to small businesses. Small businesses are really the backbone of our society, and I'd rather see the money spent there if it's going to businesses.
Is it not trickling in?
Well, there might be a trickle-in effect, but my overriding concern is just like the bank bailouts. I had a gigantic problem with the bank bailouts and the insurance companies being bailed out because nobody was coming in to bail out small businesses. So that's an issue to me.
ATMs weren't working on that Monday morning after the Federal Reserve.
I think that was
Treasury. Okay,
well, that's a different issue. But here's my point, and that to Ken's point, I mean, why aren't we building helipads for some of these small businesses? It's only Jeff Bezos who gets a helipad as part of this deal in order to find in the Senate.
It's not either or.
Yeah, and you can nitpick this and say, well, what the helipad? But I think that you want to talk about the job development program that's going to deal with some 25,000 individuals in the Queensboro houses there, for example, that Amazon is going to pay for. And I think that, look, I just don't understand how we can say it's a bad thing for Amazon to be, if they had relocated in Boston, if they relocated in Chicago, those of us who live in New York would not be very happy about this.
But it's $48,000 of New York taxpayer money per job.
Yes.
That's
David, they relocated
over
to
what
Queens, not the Hamptons.
The gentrification,
it's called an investment.
The gentrification issue, that's nonsense to me. Meaning that, you know, this is capitalism. If you have to move out of the community because the property taxes go up or go down rather, if the property values go up, that's too bad.
It's part of the game.
It is part of the game, but doesn't Amazon have a responsibility to make sure that the game is played evenly? Look, I'm not saying that this is a bad idea. I'm just saying that I think Amazon has a certain responsibility in all of this to make sure that they don't displace a lot of members of the community.
So, excuse me, but so do the elected officials who are here in New York City have to find somewhere. The gentrification issue is part of the history of New York. One thing about New York City, unlike other cities, we can't expand anywhere. Okay, there's only the 5 boroughs, and that's pretty much it.
The elected officials have the responsibility. They have the responsibility of all the taxpayers. To David's very first point, this $2 billion being spent to help Amazon, that is a problem.
You know how much they pay for their Seattle offices? Okay, $200 million per year in Seattle.
Okay, so it would take them 20 years or 10 years, whatever it is, to reach the $2 billion that they're getting from New York. But
I don't like them getting money from the government. That's a problem. But I don't have a problem with them coming in, buying property from private landowners and putting their businesses there. And if people in the community don't like that, too bad.
But I can tell you that the history of cities that are successful are those that are managed by individuals and led by individuals who are looking at the long-term picture. It looks like it's not $2 billion being written in a check given to Amazon
today. Why do they need $2 billion? A company that's that big? Isn't Bezos one of the 3 richest people in the world?
No, he's actually the richest now.
Yeah. He's the richest, so maybe he doesn't need any incentives from New York other than the fact that it's a great city and he should come here because of its own merits.
And that's how GE left, and that's how IBM left, and that's how Exxon left. Shall I go on?
I don't think we need to put money in these big corporations.
We don't need Exxon in New York City. Ken Vecchio and Dr. Wallace Ford, thank you very much. 1 on 3, not bad.
David Schuster, you're outnumbered.
That's right. That's what happens sometimes.
You're still good.
Let's turn now to a mother and son in Florida who were rescued after drifting out to sea in an inflatable swan.
Emergency calls to 911. 911 captured.
Ken Vecchio has one of these. I know he does. I'm sorry.
He called 911. They captured the frightening ordeal. Correspondent Diane Machado has more.
It was the harrowing scene